Welcome to the first ever episode of World Weary, a brand new weird weekly podcast brought to you by two weird ladies. Myself, the American one, Cassiopeia Walker,
and me, the British one, Violet Starr.
World Weary podcast is all about entertaining the extraordinary, the unknown, and the out of this world. So prepare yourself for tales from around the globe and beyond as we chat about mysteries, the supernatural, the paranormal, the stupefying, and the downright strange.
You'll be able to find all our episodes through our website, www.worldwearypodcast.com. We are also on Twitter at WorldWearyPod and Instagram at WorldWearyPodcast. So please check those out for updates, pictures, and more information on our stories.
This is our first venture into podcasting, so please bear with us as we figure out quite literally how to podcast. Especially in these early episodes, you may notice that we have some issues with the audio quality. We just want you all to know that moving forward, this is something that we're going to improve. Please also take note that the World Weary podcast may occasionally discuss mature themes and use colorful language. You've been warned.
Each episode, we take turns to pick an extraordinary topic and tell you extraordinary stories. So without further ado, please enjoy the following stories from what I suppose is our pilot episode, where we talk about the strange tales and experiences that made us the weirdos that we are today. This is Baby's First Mystery.
All right, so the prompt for the episode is Baby's First Mystery. I've got a bunch of mini stories, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I should probably let people know that I am the dumb one.
It's not true.
Okay, well, you say that. But yeah, I've got a bunch of stories that are either creepy or weird that sort of influenced me as a whole that I'm going to share with you. I don't know how many I've told you, actually. I'm wondering.
The thing is like, over the years, I've heard like snippets or like you've told me when you were a bit drunk. And like, so I've got half the story on lots of weird stuff. So today's going to be really interesting to hear like where you've like really sat down and thought about it and like dredged up those old memories. So we're going to hear it. It's going to be professional storytelling. So I'm really excited for that.
Okay, well, I'm going to transport you back to 1995. I was 7 years old. I remember that because we were living in the trailer park. 1995, so everyone's wearing poofy stuff, horrible shades of bright green and not neon, and Kiss from a Rose by Seal was playing somewhere.
What was the worst outfit or bit of clothing your parents had you in the 90s?
Okay, so I can tell you right away because I've got a picture of it.
Me too.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So my sister and I are wearing matching but different color. So polka dot shirts.
Oof.
In the most awful blue you could imagine. My sister got the pink one. So a bright blue polka dot with white polka dots, and then matching shorts that came up, they're high-waisted.
Oh, okay.
But the big giant ones like in Jurassic Park that the woman wears, that just don't look flattering on anybody. But yeah, and some jelly shoes.
Sweet. I had a pair of jelly shoes. But I think I was a little bit too young for the jelly shoes thing. Like,
yeah.
I had like a pink sparkly pair of jelly sandals. Kind of, sad that I missed out.
They're like really chic Crocs.
Yeah. Well, they came back in fashion a couple of years ago.
Yes,
so.
I'm so glad they're back. I haven't bought one because I do remember the sweat is a big no for them. They just slip and slide in those. But yeah, we're in the 90s, but if you remember, I don't know if you do remember, but in the mid-90s, we're right in the middle of satanic panic. And if you're in America, my American people know, like, satanic panic is everyone you know is a Christian. You'll get beat up if you live in the South, if you talk bad about Jesus.
Yeah, because this is the thing, I'm really unfamiliar with that because I'm pretty sure it was really just like an mainly American thing.
That's what
panic.
I think. Okay.
We would chill with the devil in Britain. We've been chill with the devil for like 2,000 years.
Well, in America, we went through this. So all the metal music and rock music being played backwards on the records is like, your child is gonna go to hell. And things like that. And sort of I mean, I think it's interesting that everyone was worried about the devil when the real devil of the 90s was child neglect.
Yes.
just, I grew up on the tail end of Lockheed Kids because I'm considered a millennial. I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I would have been 7 then. So I'm kind of a 90s kid. I grew up kind of in the 90s, but by the time 90s was swinging, I was only 7. So Satanic Panic, all this shit going on. Basically, there's this famous case, the West Memphis 3, where those boys got convicted of those murders, where basically, I mean, the evidence they had against them, people are going to yell at me because I don't know much about this. It's just, a lot of it was down to the fact that they looked the part. They were metalhead. Imagine the geekiest metalheads you knew who were in a trench coat just because that's what gets girls interested in them at that point. And it makes them feel less awkward. You knew this guy.
Oh, I
You
know.
had a crush on this
I still
guy.
know these guys.
Yeah.
I see these guys
are our
in
friends.
town.
I have a lot of metal friends. I'll listen to metal. It's not my bag. I'm not going out of my way. Unless it's baby metal. let that sink in. So it's those kind of dudes, and it's just like that's scaring everybody. There's all these things that are contributing to it, and because I was so young at the time, I'm really only now figuring out why there was this, because I remember being afraid of the devil at the time and just things like that, because we were going to church at the time, and the way I grew up, like things were just, it was all very, how can I describe the atmosphere? You go to a mall and everything's like do 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 do. Everything's like just so crisp and like, look, aren't we doing well? But this undertone of seething weird, where everyone's hiding their weird. Like nowadays, people just talk about their shit. People are, it's good. People are starting to figure out that not everything you should be feeling ashamed for. But back then, it was just the middle of that. Movies like are popular or like Christian based, like the angel fighting movies with fucking Christopher Walken. Like God needs me to kill you. Like, sorry, people. But yeah, so I'm tail end of Lockheed Kids, and so there's enough stories about that. And my parents would quite often leave us alone. I have an older brother and a younger sister. We're all 2 years apart. I'm the middle child. And so they'd leave us alone for like shopping trips and stuff like that. And my brother, who was like maybe 9 at the time, would be in charge. And my sister would be 5. So, I mean, it might be a bit melodramatic because we were pretty responsible even at that age. But it's probably like, it probably explains a lot about my constant need to be like around my husband and always have someone there.
Yeah.
And not be alone because I was left alone so much as a kid.
Super codependent and...
And at the time, we all had a creepy bangs, fringe, and bowl cut. So I don't know if you've ever seen the movie with Kirstie Alley, Village of Damned. Not Children of the Damned, Village of the Damned. And this creepy blonde... Okay, so...
I'm thinking kids in the cornfield with the, like, glowing eyes.
Children of the Corn.
These remind me of Children of the Corn. When I seen your childhood photos.
No, my mom got us these haircuts suspiciously around those films. You know what year Village of the Damned came out? The same year we're talking about. I'm pretty sure it came out in 95.
Okay.
So me and my brother, and one of the kids died. Like, there's a missing kid in it, like, because it's boy, girl, and I think the little girl in this... Anyway, it's about these telekinetic kids, or like these kids with these powers, and they can make anything happen. And like these random ladies get pregnant in town, and one happens to be a virgin, so they know something's up, because first they think everyone's cheating. Anyway... It's this crazy film. It's relevant because just imagine my mom and dad go out shopping and their creepy Village of the Damned children, when they get back, are playing with a Ouija board, giggling, trying to contact the dead.
With your creepy haircuts.
And I was in charge. I was just like, guys, let's contact a ghost. And my brother was like, no, we'll get in trouble. And what if the ghost comes and gets us? I was like, that's the point.
Yeah.
Like, I was seriously trying to contact the dead at like 7 years old. Because I saw the Ouija board just... tantalizingly close enough on the laundry room that I could climb up on the washer to get it. And my mom came back home and she literally flipped it away from me and was like, no, you don't mess with this, thereby cementing in my head that it's real.
Yeah, this is true.
This is something you don't... And a lot of people are superstitious. This Halloween just gone, I had a party and you painted a custom Ouija board, talking spirit board. Sorry, we might get copyright. A spirit board. We made a custom one for the party, just to jokingly have a little seance, and most of the people in the party didn't want to do it. They were scared. Like, and this is 2019. It's funny how that, anyway, it'll be relevant later. And my mom had this, well, here's the thing. You have a moment like that where your mom basically confirms that it's real, in a sense, that she's scared of it. And if mom's scared of it, then I should be scared of it. Is it real? And there was a lot of stuff at that time on the TV that basically fucked me up as a kid. But what I'll tell you is about the time, like, and she had this book series, Mysteries of the Unknown, which I'm definitely going to be using a lot. That just, I had all these resources at home because she was a reader and a nerd to like comb through and just figure, I mean, fairies, dragons, everything. But anyway, okay, so now I'm going to tell you a different story. That was just creepy children. Oh no, my mom's like already worried about me. Just already has to worry. The first time I was taking to see my grandma, we call her Mom, so that's what I'll be calling her. After a few hours, I was just so scared, like, and didn't want to be there that I cried and cried and cried and wouldn't go to sleep, so they had to take me home. But I remember when I went there, I was always scared. And I would, if I was alone somewhere, I would run to another room. Like, you know, when you turn off the light and go to your bed kind of thing. Like, and there was one room in particular that I was super scared of, and that was the laundry room. And I don't know why, because it smelled nice. I like linen. But it was just so creepy. And I used to have these night terrors when I did visit overnight about the laundry room and me being trapped in there, and someone coming in like who has bad intentions. I couldn't remember. I never saw a face or a person or anything. It was just the feeling, and the feeling of someone's ill intent sort of overwhelming me and would wake me up. And that's when I would wake up and not be able to move. What is it called? Sleep paralysis.
Yeah, sleep paralysis.
And I had that a lot, and night terrors and stuff about all sorts, like crazy stuff. But yeah, she basically had this house that was half her house and half the daycare center she ran. And that daycare center, like, whenever I was alone in there, it was just so creepy. Like, and of course there's just boxes of dolls and things in the daycare center for the kids to play with, but it's just so eerie because she never used to light the back because it's strip lights, and you just press a thing and the whole center gets lit. But I hated going in there alone. But the whole house felt creepy to me, and things of mine would go missing. And I would assume it was my mom, like, maybe putting it somewhere, and I wouldn't even think about it. But things went missing to the point where I would look around and be like, I'm placing this here. Look at my sister and be like, look, we don't want to lose our doll. I'm putting it here. Leave the room for 2 seconds. It's gone. Weird stuff like that. And I'm a kid, and I'm like, even it stuck out to me now. I still remember it now. So something weird happened. But yeah, I mean, nothing ever more than that happened. I was always around people because I was so scared. So I just never really saw anything, like, just other than the nightmares. And then she ended up dying when I was pretty young, like 2 years later, like when I was 9 or 10, I think. And a few years after that, when I was 12 or 13, my mom starts coming out with all these weird stories. Like, she casually brings up the fact that the house was haunted. And she's like, yeah, we tried to get it exorcised 3 times. They had to preach, like, to the point where, because if you need to get a priest, they, like, if they're an actual priest that's supposed to do it, it's hard to get them to care. And they were obviously like, okay, something's wrong with this. And guess when activity started in the house? Like, my mom was 15, going through puberty.
Yeah.
And she's a child of abuse, so there's all those theories about that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But so what I'll do is I'll tell you the stories that she told me about the house later on that I had to learn after my grandma died. So
this is like, parents, like, if you know you're dealing with, you think you live in a haunted house, and there's fucking weird shit going on, stuff going missing, poltergeisty stuff happening, kids having creepy nightmares, you know, when do you start talking about hauntings and shit with your kids? Like, do you keep it a secret? Do you freaking...
Well, she sheltered us. That's why she didn't want us to feel scared. And I think my mom's like, she read up on all the books. One of the books had stuff. I think the reason why she got those books was because back then the only way to get that kind of information is to buy the books. So she had all these books on poltergeist and stuff. And she probably, once she moved out, because she eloped with my dad like a year after one of these incidents that I'm going to tell you about. So she was only in that house when the poltergeist activity started for 2 years. And it started when she was going through puberty, apparently. Could be wrong. Maybe my mom will correct me later if she ever listens to this. But these are stories that I'm remembering from when I was 12, 13 that she told me that scared the fucking shit out of me. And in me, it was like a pin dropped. Like, and suddenly I remembered all the weird, creepy things I'd experienced in the
You
house.
put the pieces together, basically, you know?
And all that stuff that went missing after my grandma died when we were doing the yard sale. And just sort of getting rid of all the tap from the attic. We found a whip. Grandma's whip. That's all my stuff was there in a little circle in the attic.
Baby's first poltergeist.
And it was just my dolls, my old stuffed animals, and it was just there laying on the ground. I was like, did my grandpa and because my papa was drunk most of the time. He used to call it his medicine and get me to get it from the fridge.
Your grandpa?
Yeah,
Okay.
my pop. He's actually not blood related, but I never knew anyway. Like my mom, this is why I know my mom sheltered me. She didn't want to tell me that it was haunted. She probably thought after reading the books that it wouldn't matter because the poltergeist only existed because of her. She probably put two and two together. Thought I was going through puberty because she's a smart cookie. She's like she's a chemist turned nurse, so she has 2 degrees and she's just missed thing. So she probably just shrugged it off and was like, oh, it probably, or just got logical after college and just forgot and just decided not to tell us to creep us out because we're kids. Why would you do that? But afterwards, when we no longer had access to the house because they had to sell it and stuff, that's when she started telling me these stories. So my mom was about 15. Keep in mind, yeah, she's a child of abuse and she's always cleaning and making everything perfect to avoid beatings, essentially. And I never knew this about my grandma because she sobered up and went through lots of stuff and went to hospital and got therapy and treatment. And I only ever saw her as this angelic grandma because she was so good. But back then, oh boy, I gave a sailor a run for his money with the drinking and stuff. And so my mom's doing the dishes, you know, being a good kid, probably about 14, 15, maybe a little, just around there. And she out of nowhere feels a hand on her shoulder, which isn't unusual. Quite often her mom will come over and like touch her and be like, hello. And she goes, oh, I'll be done in a minute. The grip becomes firmer. And she's like a bit nervous, like, oh God, what have I done? And turns to go say hello to her mom and be like apologizing, immediately saying sorry for something she hasn't done yet. And the grip becomes really tight. And she said it grabbed her shoulder. And when she turned, there was no one there. So she like does the first thing you're going to think of doing, which is screaming and running. Like she just started running, trying to get to the front door, which was nearby.
Yeah.
Couldn't open it. Like a horror movie, locked, and she couldn't open it. Lights are going off. Anything with a plug attached into it is making power, like is on and like making crazy amounts of noises. So blenders and things are going off, toasters going off, microwaves on, lights are flickering, and she just is screaming, running. And then she decides to go to the back door. So she runs to the side of the kitchen, door slam behind her as she goes, like bam, bam, bam. She finally gets out of the house, right? That's all she told about it. Like, she was just like, it freaked her out. She stayed at her friend's house for a bit and then had to go back because she's underage.
Insane.
Just, this is the story my mom's telling me at 13. Now, my mom has her own set of mental health issues and, not necessarily issues. So she's got her own set and she deals with it, and I believe her. Because I trust her. But the only reason why I really believe her, because it could easily be part of like, those things.
Well, it's part of that wider
it's so
bunch
complex.
of experiences and stuff that you
I wasn't
experienced
there.
but if you can believe in some of that, if you notice, your stuff getting stolen and you experience those weird
that's
nightmares
why it
and those
me.
weird feelings, your mum's stories are gonna make sense to you because you can relate to it a little bit. It fits into the puzzle.
But and there's this, anyway, I'm just inclined to always believe her in that sense. And that's how I like to keep things. It's like, if someone tells me a story like this, I'm ready to believe. And not like wholeheartedly, I believe you blindly. Just that I'm giving you the opportunity to express yourself, tell me this story, and I'm not going to make you feel shit about it. I'll listen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I've got my own weird experiences. So basically after that, there's one more incident. I think she might have been a bit younger or older. I can't fucking remember. But she's basically going to a school dance, and she buys these new pair of boots, and they go missing. It's that thing again. And she's looking for them. She put them, like, she just bought them, and it's a time when she's pretty poor. her mom's poor. They don't have a lot, even though she's running the daycare, her mom's a gambler and a drinker. So the money goes. Shout out to people with alcoholic parents, what, the money goes. So you've got to be careful. And so she's very careful at the time, and she can't find them. She just gets fed up, and she knows all these weird things are happening. And she said that she just looked around and just asked the house. She's like, can you please give me my boots back? I'm going to school dance. I'm already late. Can I just have my boots back? And she's crying because it's just insult to injury. She's bullied at school. She's bullied at home. And now she's being bullied by unseen forces. It's being insanely bullied. And so she goes outside and the boots are on the welcome mat. It's just, she gives up, goes outside, boom, there they are. Just so weird. And she said lots of things. And then the final one, when she just decided to get the fuck out of there, and shortly after eloped with my dad. My dad, her, and my quote unquote aunt and uncle, Stacy, my aunt Stacy and my uncle Scott, they're friends. They're all sitting around, and what do you know? I guess it's so much creepy activity has happened. They've decided, you know what we need to do? We need to play with a Ouija board in this house. So they pull it out. They're playing with the Ouija board. And my father told me this story. So this is why I feel like it confirms everything. Why I'm so odd. So my dad, who's so straight-laced, he's an accountant. I mean, the most interesting conversation he has is when he brings up politics at a dinner party or something. If he ever wants one. This is spicy as he gets, really, nowadays. And he's so Vulcan-like logical with certain things. It really struck out to me that he should tell me the story. And he said that they were playing the Ouija board, and I think there's a scene in Rosemary's Baby or another film where the Ouija board just goes straight up and then into the wall. And that's literally what happened to them. It went, and the board went flying one way. And what do you call it? The thingy you put your hand on? Oh, God.
I don't know.
The thingy.
Yeah,
anyway,
the thingy,
yeah. Let us know. And that flew straight into the wall like an arrow. I can't remember. I think there was something else about what it was saying, but I couldn't tell you now. It was yonks ago. But it was just one of those things where that's what my dad told me. So it's just both of these creatures that created you have given you this idea, and no matter how logical and scientific I am, I still want to listen to those fantastic stories because it just creeped me out as a kid, and I was just
oh yeah, and there's nothing better than the straight-laced serious parent that you then find out. You have to try and imagine them when they're younger playing with the frickin' spirit board. You could never imagine them doing that kind of thing, and it just he's one of those people where he it took a long time to admit that he even tried something like weed. I finally weaseled it out of him, and he was just I didn't like it. But then years later he told me a different story. I was like, oh, so you were genuinely a bit of a pothead at some point. These parents, they're lying. They're out here lying. But yeah, those are my stories that basically, as far as baby's first mystery, that was the first thing that really made me just fascinated. Yeah. I mean, that's a super
completely enthralled.
A super cool little, collection of kind of experiences and that weird childhood stuff of putting the pieces together as you get a bit older and being oh shit.
That's why I felt so scared, and why all my stuff went missing, and I felt somebody was watching me constantly while I was there. I never felt alone. When I was I would watch Sailor Moon alone before my pop-up got home, ready to play canasta with me for 2 hours before my mom would be done with her daycare stuff. So I'd be alone. And I spent a lot of time there in the summers because it's free daycare for my mom. It's and, I'd watch Scooby-Doo and Sailor Moon, and I just got the feeling someone was watching me the entire time. It was just so surreal. Ugh, it gives me the creeps even now. I get all choked up in my eyes water and stuff, thinking about it.
My baby's first mystery is something like aliens, gunfire, and panic. So similar to you, I think the thing that first really got me into thinking about, crazy unsolved mysteries and paranormal supernatural stuff and just out of this world kind of tales was the paranormal unsolved mystery books. that my parents had and that we got given as kids. And I think from around the age of like 7 or 8, I was like obsessed with reading these like non-fiction mystery books, like true ghost stories, UFO Bible. You know, I was like, I couldn't read any, you know, fiction stories. Nothing interested me as much as mysteries. And, you know, I think even like there were a few years where just every relative was gifting me a book of like how to set up your own real ghost hunting tours books for like Christmas and stuff. And I remember, you know, just for like what seemed like every night for like 4 or 5 years, reading these like UFO Bibles and like, you know, paranormal dictionaries at night, and then literally shivering and shaking myself with fear in bed until I fell asleep because, you know, I thought there was an alien in my bedroom. And it didn't help when I stayed at my dad's house, because basically having a glow-in-the-dark tennis racket with an alien face on it in my bedroom facing the foot of my bed was a really bad idea. It didn't help. So the case I want to talk about that really got me into all of this, that's really burnt into my soul.
Ooh, I'm excited.
It's kind of famous, and it was certainly in all of the like UFO books that I had when I was a kid.
I wonder if that's one I know.
It's so famous. I'm certain you know. Like,
okay,
but
I'm excited to hear your version of it, though, Karen.
So, but what really affected me and is like really burnt into my subconscious now, like is ingrained in me, was watching this really budgety American like unsolved paranormal mysteries VHS that we had as kids, and they reenacted this case, this encounter that I want to talk about in that video, and it freaked me out and it freaked my sister out so bad. It was like one of those like productions where the guy would be like, you know, they would not be prepared for what they would encounter in the darkness. You know, it haunts me to this day. So,
Can
anyway,
somebody find that? Can someone find this VHS?
I have been looking for it. I actually wanted, if I could find the clip for you, I wanted to play it to you, but I can't find it. So if someone can find, you know, I'll tell you a bit more about exactly what happens, because I've seen a couple of other like video reenactments of this, and they're not quite the same. They don't have the same weird creatures in it that were in the video I had. So here's the story. The year is 1955. So, you know, we're talking the heyday for flying saucers. All of that stuff beginning.
Golden era of sci-fi.
Absolutely. And setting the scene, you know, it's a summer evening. It's August the 21st, 1955 in rural Kentucky in the US of A.
Kentucky #1.
Yeah, I'm bringing out an American story despite being the British one. So this is set at a farmhouse close to a little town called Kelly, which is also close to another little city called Hopkinsville. This evening, at this farmhouse, there's a whole bunch of people. First off, there's Glennie Langford. She's a 50-year-old widowed family matriarch. She's got some kids called Lonnie, Charlton and Mary, who are like 12 and under at the time. And then she's got some adult sons from her previous marriage, Lucky Sutton, or Elmer Lucky Sutton.
Lucky Sutton.
JC Sutton.
JC!
Those sons' wives, Vera and Aline.
Okay.
Aline's brother, so that would be JC's brother-in-law, called O.P. Baker. And so Lucky, the son, and JC would have, I think they were all around in their 20s or thereabouts. And Lucky and his wife Vera were, I think it said, itinerant carnival workers. So they were like traveling from place to place working for a carnival. And they had some friends staying over at Glennie's farmhouse, a couple called Billy Ray and June Taylor. They were from Pennsylvania, and they were also carnival workers, so they must have been colleagues from the same travelling carnival. So it's the evening, and this whole bunch of people are crammed into this farmhouse having supper together.
I'm not so sure I know this one. I'm really not so sure I know this one. I'm really excited. Like, I might not have heard of this.
Okay, so 1950s, there's no indoor plumbing at the Sutton farmhouse. So 7 p.m. that evening, Billy Ray, the carnival worker from Pennsylvania, he has to go outside to get some water from the well. Whilst he's out at the well, he sees a light traveling across the sky.
Look at my arm hairs. Look at my arm hairs. They're already standing up. I love it.
Which he identified as a spaceship. And he saw it kind of land behind some trees, kind of on the edge of this, fairly substantial bit of farmland, I think. He saw it land behind these trees in a kind of ravine or gully, about a quarter of a mile away from where the farmhouse was. So Billy Ray goes back in to tell the family, the whole Sutton family and everybody in the farmhouse what he'd seen. But apparently no one paid his story any attention. They just dismissed it. And I wonder if that kind of is a bit telling of Billy Ray's character and maybe his,
Maybe Billy Ray drinks and be...
Yeah, Billy Ray's like, a bit of a talker. So a bit later on, they're all back inside the farmhouse, but a dog outside the farmhouse starts barking and going nuts. Oh. So Lucky, being I think the oldest son of Glennie, and Billy Ray, his carnival friend, they go outside to see what's up.
No, Billy, no, don't go out.
So that dog must have been really putting up.
Yeah.
Dogs bark, especially if you're on a farm and they're not particularly well trained dogs, perhaps, or like they're constantly on guard. If the dog's going that nuts that you have to go out and check it out, you're going to be feeling a bit weird. So they go outside, and emerging from the tree line, they see the first of the creatures. Out in the darkness, Lucky and Billy encountered. So this is what I think from the original statement they described them as: luminous, 3.5 foot tall being with an oversized head, big floppy pointed ears, glowing eyes, and hands with talons at their ends. And the figure either made of or simply dressed in silvery metal.
They are wearing uniforms. That lends credit, because apparently there's a huge debate about like if they're wearing uniforms, it's more credible because anyway, go ahead. There's a lot of contention about uniformed aliens versus naked.
And it had its hands raised.
like it's okay, I'm good.
So after seeing these creatures emerging out of the woods, I think there was like one or maybe two. Someone, when I was looking at one of these like reports or like a Reddit comment about it, someone was like, they were like showing the universal sign of surrender. It's like the Mr. Burns moment in
Oh, I don't want to ruin it. Is this the one where... Okay, I do remember this one. It's great. I didn't want to ruin it for the listener who might not know what happens.
So they did the only thing they could do in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Try to kill their asses.
Get that alien.
So Lucky and Billy Ray, immediately they freaking run inside and they grab a .22 rifle and a shotgun. And then for the next 3 hours, they shoot them. They're shooting at the creatures.
No, I'm not maligning the good folks of Kentucky. I actually know someone from Kentucky, and they're really lovely. They would never shoot that alien.
I mean, what do you expect? Like,
if I lived in a farmhouse,
if you look like, let's just say there's nothing weird supernatural about this. Let's say if you look,
it could have been me after a party.
If this was like a kid that just happened to look like a silvery, glowing little goblin. Turns up at your house. I mean, in the 50s, rural Kentucky, in the middle of nowhere, in a farmhouse with some like whole bunch of people living there and some like freaking carnies. You can expect some hostility. Send a letter first, or like don't turn up unannounced because I'm gonna shoot you. So as the story is told, they shot at least this first creature. But then others, or at least another one, is kind of unclear in the reports, appeared. And what was super surprising for these dudes was that these creatures were resistant, or seemed to be resistant to their bullets. So they were shooting these apparently defenseless creatures that kind of look like little gremlins with rifles. And they claimed to have heard clangs and ricochets, as if the aliens
metal
were.
suits.
Yeah, whether this like silvery thing was a kind of armor or was their skin just like deflecting.
See, I was going to say it represented a grave misunderstanding of the human race if they didn't have those things. If they didn't have some kind of bullet catcher.
So yeah, when a bullet from, you know, the shotgun or the rifle would strike one of these creatures, apparently it sounded like they were shooting a tin can. So they're out there shooting, it's freaking dark, I don't think there's any exterior lighting from what I read out there, so, you know, these things kind of like glowing and reflecting and creeping these people out. At some point, one of the creatures got onto the roof of the farmhouse. I think one was in a tree
Like
at some
Signs.
point.
Maybe this is what Signs is based off of.
I'm sure there's some inspiration there for sure. And again, it's unclear as to how many creatures they saw. I mean, there's some say like, oh, there were like 12 to 15 of the creatures. In some, it seems like there were 2, but like they kept kind of one would like run off and then one would like...
Or maybe it's a projection.
Yeah, and one would be like close. So there were like at least 2 of these things. It's unclear. So they said that, you know, they'd be like shooting at the creatures on the roof or in the tree. And when they would shoot at them, the creatures flipped over and fled into the darkness when they were shot at. And I guess making these like tin can noises. So these guys would shoot them, the creatures would like float to the ground and then escape and then run back for more. Either they were like impervious to the gun blasts, or maybe like these guys, their aim was poor because they didn't kill anything. Nothing like died in front of them. There was no like little goblin corpse in front of this farmhouse. And apparently they went through like whole boxes of ammunition. This is like a 3-hour gun battle. At some point they were shooting at the creatures from within the house, through the windows.
No, so they were in the house shooting outside the windows.
Yes.
Okay, I thought they were in the
No,
house.
they were shooting at the creatures from within.
Okay, that's what I'd be doing.
So like through the windows, and then they were also like going outside and shooting at them from like the porch, or like coming up in front of the farmhouse and like shooting them if they were on the roof. It's not totally clear to me, but I think the children, because there were 3 kids who are definitely under 12 in the house, were kind of hidden under beds and stuff, and some of the ladies in the house apparently refused to look out at the creatures. And I read a newspaper interview with Lonnie, who was one of the kids at the time.
Yeah.
They interviewed him as a old man, basically, about how his mum Glennie had tried to protect the kids by getting them to hide under the bed and not look out and not see what was going on. So sometimes, you know, Lucky and Billy Ray would be shooting at these creatures' faces as they popped up at the window, and described it as like a fun house. You know, they were like popping up, so the guys would be shooting through the window at these creepy faces, like, you know, causing mischief basically at this farmhouse.
That's scary, because you know that if a person's shooting at you, okay, let's say you're any kind of animal, because I can't imagine dealing with an alien species. I can't imagine anything like that. It's just so foreign to me, like even the thought of what an alien would look like, I just can't imagine that I would even be able to describe it. And just imagine like these fucking weasel popping up, like fucking just trying to, oh no, it's too scary.
The thing is, like, what were these things? Like, they were kind of like little goblin-y, they were like described as like a goblin-y, gremlin-y thing, because this was the early days of, you know, people knew what flying saucers were, but our vocabulary about aliens or the potential that there could be extraterrestrials associated with those flying saucers and visiting and stuff hadn't really developed. Like it is now, we just totally associate flying saucer with alien.
But here's the thing: if they're popping in the window, if they've been shot at a couple times when they're in the field, then you know these people are scared.
Yeah.
If you are anybody, if I'm near an animal, even like an ant or something, and it walks away from me, I know that it's probably trying to just get away from me and do its own thing. If I then choose to fuck with that animal, that's like me valuing it. It's beneath me. So it's very telling that they're fucking with them at this point.
Yeah,
because even if it's a joke, they're saying, we're better than you, look at us. Shoot us all you like.
Yeah, to me it reads as mischief.
Yeah.
This is a mischievous,
like
mischievous behaviour, you know? So...
Yeah, because they're not hurting them when they could if they wanted it, and probably if they had, like, their own weapons.
Absolutely. So yeah, so they're popping up like kind of little funhouse whack-a-mole kind of situation, but with guns and windows and creepy little alien goblins. And again, unclear as to how many creatures were involved. Maybe it's just 2 creatures that keep going back for more. But in some, it says like there were like 15 creatures like all around, scattered around the farmhouse. So they're shooting out of the windows. They're shooting from outside the farmhouse, up at the roof, at the trees, all around. On the VHS I had when I was a kid, this was the part of the battle that really freaked me out. So in the video, they showed... They made it very clear how they interpreted these creatures. So they showed delicate little white aliens with spindly hands and arms, like touching at the window panes and like pit-pattering on the roof. And
no, that would be the worst for me, is knowing that they're on the roof.
And just like, spindly, pasty little, delicate little fairy-like aliens.
My ex-boyfriend.
Being all like weird and slow motion-y and... Ugh. So the worst bit in this entire story and this video was a scene where the actor who played Billy Ray is standing on the porch with his gun, looking around for the creatures, and the camera kind of zooms out and we can see that one of them is on the roof of the porch just above him, and he's not looking up. And it reaches down with its creepy little elongated, pasty alien hand and grabs at his hair.
Oh no, that would be the worst, even if it just touched the top of your hair. Oh no.
So obviously that video, they definitely portrayed the creatures as like what we would imagine, like a little grey white alien, okay? But in some of the reports, they said they had like huge claw-like hands, So maybe that's what they, their appendages looked like. Maybe they didn't have creepy little hands, but that freaked me out in that video so bad. So if you can find that video, please send it to me, because I need to relive them feels.
Yeah, worldwearypodcast@gmail.com.
So I read somewhere that it was Glennie, so the widowed Mrs. Langford, who kind of, after this 3 hours and the hair grabbing and the shooting out the windows and kids under the bed, kind of tried to calm the situation down, because she realised that these creatures weren't actually...
Yeah, they're not
attacking.
Killing you.
They were just messing with them. And there was a kind of lull in the battle. The creatures seemed to have sort of momentarily disappeared. So everyone piled into their cars and they drove 8 miles south to Hopkinsville, where the police headquarters were at. So smart move. So soon, more than, I think it said in some reports, about a dozen officers from city, county and state law enforcement agencies came to the Sutton farmhouse. They searched around looking for whatever the explanation was, looking for these creatures, looking for someone or something behind this. And apparently their search yielded nothing apart from a hole in a window screen. I guess a bullet hole. They couldn't find any tracks of like what had been described to them as little men. Nor was there any kind of marks or anything showing that a spacecraft had landed at the spot that Billy Ray had described behind the house, about a quarter of a mile away in this ravine or little gully. And the police were there for about 2.5 hours. But the problem is what actually happened during the time that the police were there varies a lot depending on which story you read or which newspaper report you read or whose tale you read. A lot of them say that there was spent ammunition everywhere, that everything was damaged a lot by the gunfire, bullet holes in windows, smashed glass. But there was no sign of these little people that had been causing mischief, no sign of these creatures that the family had described. But there's one report that states that they found some luminous green glowing near a fence, which disappeared the next day. that was sort of consistent apparently with foxfire, so that kind of bioluminescent fungus that you get on decaying wood.
Okay.
But it couldn't be considered strong evidence of anything untoward or weird, and there's only like one report that says that, so it's possibly not true. And then, so 2 officers who then returned again in the morning, because the police left after the 2.5 hours investigation. The family had to go to bed. Next morning, these 2 officers turn up, and they were told by some neighbours that the Suttons and the other carnival workers had packed up and were leaving. And that the creatures had returned about 3:30 in the morning after the police had left. But the family didn't bother shooting at them this time. Apparently the creatures just like scratched around on the house and made noise walking on the roof. And
I wonder if they can't figure out how
appeared
doors
in the windows
work.
a little bit.
Like,
exactly. Right. It's mischief, it's a mischievous behaviour. And in that video I watched, there was, I think, an actress playing Glennie, the widowed matriarch, who she described like waking up in the early hours, like at 3:30, after the police had gone, and looking out the window and seeing the little goblin people had returned.
She hadn't seen them before.
Looking in the windows of the house, and that she just had to deal with it calmly. And they knew they couldn't.
Well, at that point, when you can't, like, I wouldn't know what to do. I was just like, do we stay here? Are they going to just follow us? Like, are they just interested in this house and they're just trying to scare us out? And they've got such technology that they can do that. I don't know what I couldn't even possibly gauge what the motivations of an alien was. But yeah, really creepy.
So that, they wake up. If they did get any sleep at all, I certainly don't think I could go to sleep after that.
Well, I could sleep in I'd still be asleep on the couch.
So the creatures were gone. Everyone at the farmhouse apparently leaves. Assumes someone must have reported to the police that, that they had experienced the creatures return at 3:30 in the morning. And the following day, apparently the US Air Force or some kind of army personnel were involved. They ultimately listed this case as unidentified. Especially, I'm sure, like, someone reporting that they'd seen a craft land, like that, and reported it straight to the police. I can see that would, like, interest the army enough to, like, come and check it out, especially in the 50s when, like, who knows, who could be, like, driving some crazy plane around. So the earliest articles on this case didn't actually refer to little green men, which is what the case has become synonymous with now.
Yeah.
That, calling them little green men was kind of a thing that the media came up with. So although apparently Lucky described them as silver with like a greeny silver glow, the media were the people that termed it, that they've been visited by little green men, and that's how that, becomes synonymous with our idea of what aliens look like. And I think it was Glennie that described the creatures she saw as shining. People have said, well, that could have been farm lights reflecting off something.
That's just people like not willing to listen. If someone says shiny is a very particular adjective. If something's scintillating to the point where you're like, it's shiny.
Yeah.
You know the difference between a glow of a light. These people have lived on that farmhouse long enough to know what the dog looks like under the light. Does the dog shine? No. Little fucking creepy clawed bastards do. Whack-a-moles.
And, in some of the reports I heard there was no exterior lighting at the farm, or very, very limited. So it's hard to imagine, being confused by something being...
plumbing.
Yeah. There couldn't have been enough light to really light up some kind of animals, whatever. So other details about the story are kind of fuzzy, just because this story has definitely been exaggerated and added to, and all kinds of conflicting reports about it. So in the first newspaper story, I think they were referred to as being like 4 foot tall, big heads, huge eyes, long arms. However, Glennie, when she was interviewed about it, said that they were 2.5 feet tall. And
well,
that
she
they
got
had...
a closer look, didn't she? She wasn't shooting at them from a distance and stuff. They were right outside the window when she was calm, looking at them rather than being scared. When you got adrenaline in you, like, I don't know.
And she said they had large pointed ears, they had claw-like hands with like talons at the end of their fingers, and it was the eyes that were like glowing yellow. And she said someone said they had spindly, inflexible legs. And they've been referred to as being gremlin-like or goblin-like in appearance.
They've got to be elves, like maybe they're forest creatures who are there to literally cause mischief, and they've got like mithril armor on, and they're like, "Fuck you." They're just getting angry at people around that time.
So I haven't got any pictures on me, but you can find the like drawings and like sketches, I think done by the actual real witnesses of this on the internet. So basically, amongst UFO enthusiasts, amongst ufologists, this is regarded as one of the most sort of famous, most significant, and potentially the best documented case. You've got a whole bunch of witnesses, loads of them are adults, and after experiencing this encounter in which they react with shooting in a full-on battle, they then go straight to the police station and the police visit. So you've then got this other bunch of, official witnesses, and they supposedly got visited. It was serious enough for there to be some interest from the Air Force or some kind of army personnel afterwards who needed to check this out. And
I find it convenient that the children were all under beds, not allowed to look. But here's the thing about UFO stories. None of these people, in reality, we may want to think they do, but in reality, none of these people benefit financially from their stories. Some of them may go to some conventions, some of them may write a book, but they never really sell that many copies. You know who makes the money? The already professional authors whose job it is that they go out and find these stories and then they write up a beautiful story about that story. The people's autobiography shit never makes them money, very rarely, and it always fucks them over for life. So for me, the question I always have at the end of these stories is like, why would they lie when it destroys their life? And then everyone thinks they're a kook. That's the worst thing you can do, because think of how quickly, if you say, oh, that person's crazy, how quickly, especially back then, and not so much, people are getting more progressive now and actually dealing with things and being like, it's okay, I don't have to be ashamed because I've got this and I can treat it. That's where we need to go. But like back then, you could just be like, oh, Billy's crazy. And then the whole town goes, yeah. And anything Billy does adds to the fact that he's crazy. Maybe Billy gets upset because people are calling him crazy. He starts yelling, oh, that must mean you're crazy. So it's just, I always wonder, like, why would you fuck yourself over? Even I'm desperate for attention most of the time. But I wouldn't want to, like, lie about something like that because it destroys your life. I would love for it to happen. Yeah. Because I feel like I never had something like that happen where I'm just like, when I used to hear those stories, I used to be like, why not me? Take me on this spaceship.
I want attention from the aliens too.
I'll bear those alien children. I'm not doing anything else with my eggs anytime soon.
So yeah, this case is, so famous now. That's why you recognized it after I got into that first paragraph or two, because it evolved into this stereotype of when hillbillies meet aliens. Yeah,
what's the first thing you're going to do at first contact? Oh, we start shooting. And it's so, like, it's easy to, like, be like, oh, there's something, this, the blah, 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 blah. But if you understand the isolated feel of America, and probably even at that time, post-war, post-Dust Bowl, barely getting out of the Dust Bowl era and stuff, God, I can't imagine what they thought was happening. And I can't say for sure 100% how I would react in their position, in their situation. If I were them, I'd probably do the same thing. Except instead of like with the children hanging out, I'd be with the men shooting at the things like, fuck you, man, get it out of my fucking house. But I always find it interesting how sometimes they just don't know how to use doors and they tend to like just walk through walls to get things. But this one has none of that. It's got the perfect element of, we're going to show you that we can do whatever we want.
Yeah. It's like purely mischievous, purely trying to spook with people, purely trying to fuck with people. You know, if they wanted to like actually like
Laser
get up close, then they could have, I'm sure these things could have figured out how to get inside if they were kind of sentient little goblin or alien or whatever.
Sprites or some kind of...
So let's get into my favourite part of this, which are, because this is so famous and been so debated, there are a whole bunch of answers and theories as to what was going on.
Acid's gonna be one of them.
So the you know, there's some little ideas about kind of mass hallucination or like mass hysteria. Did Billy Ray going out to that well and seeing what he thought was a spacecraft land nearby? You know, maybe he just misinterpreted a meteor in the sky as a UFO or something like that. He misidentified I don't know, a plane or something not supernatural or not extraterrestrial.
It was a wheelbarrow.
Yeah. In the sky, and then by planting that idea in, cause a mass hysteria where then other things that might have otherwise been interpreted as a normal, natural thing were mistaken as aliens or as something weird.
Look at power of suggestion, cults, psychic people, mediums. It's really easy to convince yourself stuff. But yeah,
and you know, as I've mentioned like way too much already. There's so many discrepancies with this story. You know, there's definitely a lot of stuff that's been exaggerated, added on, enough to have muddled the case up. So it's kind of hard to figure out or put a finger on what went on, for me anyway. So from the outset of this, there's a whole bunch of proposed solutions to the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. Obviously, loads of people just thought this was a hoax, and this being rural Kentucky and a farmhouse with a whole bunch of kids and family members and carnival workers there. People also attribute this to some moonshine, some alcohol intoxication. One of the original investigators, who was a state trooper, originally, I think he'd been stated somewhere saying he thought there had been some drinking going on. He was pretty sure. I think he said something like the monsters came in a container, like a bottle of alcohol or a can. And someone had noticed a few beer cans in a rubbish basket. But then an interview with Lonnie, who was one of the little kids at the time, said he didn't remember anyone drinking that night. And he went on to state that his mum was like super religious. She didn't allow drinking in the house, no beer, no liquor, no moonshine. And that, you know, she was certain she'd seen space creatures. And because she was so religious and didn't lie, he was pretty adamant that she was telling the truth about that. And that there hadn't been any alcohol drinking. So whether or not drinking was involved, the saucer sightings, the spacecraft sighting that Billy Ray saw at the well initially, couldn't have been influenced by drink, because funnily enough, other UFOs were witnessed in the area that evening.
Oh, really?
However, these have kind of been explained as meteor sightings. So again, maybe the spacecraft or light that Billy Ray thought he saw, it could have just been a fireball or a meteor or something, and some other people in the area saw it too. So some guy, I think called Clark, or his surname's Clark, who kind of investigated this a bit, he said that the police and these Air Force or Army personnel officers found no evidence of a hoax. But there's discrepancies about whether anyone did even turn up from the Air Force. So, you know, there's issues here. There's issues. So, you know, maybe it was a meteor. Maybe they were drinking. Maybe not. Maybe they were drunk hillbillies. It's not clear. And everyone has something slightly different to say about it. So this super skeptical researcher dude, I think called Joe Nickell, investigated this whole case, and I think some very thorough work done by a French researcher as well. They pin this entire encounter, or certainly the part with the creatures, down to an aggressive pair of great horned owls. So, great horned owls stand 2/3 of a meter tall. They've got frickin' talons and shit. They've got floppy ears. Look it up on Google. Have a look at great horned owl.
Oh, yeah.
So comes back to the thing of, despite the reports that there were like 12 or 15 creatures, the families themselves stated that only once did anyone see as many as 2 of these creatures at the same time. Keeping in mind that it was nighttime and there probably wasn't much exterior lighting happening. I read somewhere that, an adult great horned owl could look very much the same as one of these creatures in the dark. And also, one of these researchers wrote that these owls, when they've got like young or like chicks, they're like super aggressive. They'll like fight humans if you come too near, or like go near their nest. And they hunt at night after sunset, so it would fit the timing of this.
Here's
this
the thing,
battle.
though. I know what a fucking owl looks like if I work on a farm.
Exactly.
And here's the thing: wouldn't there be feathers everywhere? You'd have some kind of shit or feathers all over the porch, all over the roof.
Exactly. I mean, owls don't make tin can noises. But then again, maybe these were just drunk hillbillies
and then
misinterpreting great horned owls, shooting them against the chicken coop, making the clangy noises. I mean, but again, my personal feeling used to be, when I read this story as a kid, was these are people who live out in the sticks. You got to go to the toilet out in the dark in the middle of the night.
You're used to this stuff.
Exactly. Or every time you need to get water, you got to go out the well. I've been there. I've done that. I can tell you, you stop getting scared about the dark. You stop getting scared about being outside on your own in the dark, in the woods or whatever, real quickly when you have to do that. These people, they're living in a rural farmland area with woods. They must be with owls and the local wildlife. You've got carnival workers. Carnies are hardy people. You're on the road, travelling around. Back in the 50s, carny life would have been way more out in the sticks. You're setting up in fields and farmland on the edge of towns.
And
you're living in wagons, camping, basically. These aren't the sort of people who are going to be scared by wildlife and the dark, let alone a big old owl.
Usually carnival people are really clever. This is the problem I have with the whole, okay, if you live out in the sticks, you're automatically dumb. That is ridiculous. Just because you're rich does not make you smart,
Well, this is a problem. Is this
just
case
you're
was
all right.
Trying to paint, or a lot of people try to paint this as these were stupid, drunk hillbillies going crazy with guns, confused about some owls.
Which, while it's a fun image, when you look at them as actual people, they're family, they're eating dinner. If the little kid says, no, they weren't drunk, they're religious as fuck. I'm sorry, but if you grow up in that atmosphere, I, as an adult, would just rat on my mom at that point if I was just like, yeah, they were drinking. Because you'd want to save your parents' reputation, wouldn't you? You'd want to be like, yeah, they were, drinking. It's all said and done now, because they're probably all long dead, most of them. But I don't know. It seems a bit dismissive just to put it down to drunk hillbillies.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got it taken so seriously that the Air Force shows up. That means the police station made a call, did we had a weird incident, and they were like, we're going to investigate. You know why? Because this is post Roswell. And whatever happened there, no matter what, there was some dodgy shit, and there's always this atmosphere of people turn up afterwards, and all of a sudden, there were a couple beer cans in the trash can. Because it takes the same person that's calling these people to go up the chain, which they're loathsome to do at this time. This is way before they shared information. So if they're going up the chain, they can go down the chain and be like, maybe you saw some beer cans, buddy. Maybe these are just a case of drunk hillbillies shooting off. It's so easy to dismiss it, and it just feels too easy of an answer.
Yeah.
But it's,
And this is the thing, it's like, this back in the 50s, I think there's no doubt this stuff was taken more seriously by
Oh, yeah, because
officials.
you got, like...
You know, there were so many scares about...
Is this the Cold War? I'm
the
sounding like an
potential
idiot
of...
in the 80s.
I don't know.
Cut that.
the potential of not only kind of technology and threats from other countries, but also a very real fear and kind of belief in suddenly extraterrestrials and possibly being visited by aliens and technology from
and humans
that's more
are
powerful and from somewhere else.
We're just at the point with medicine where we have just enough time rather than just constantly aching and dying and losing teeth and like our brains exploding. We're just at the point in this time period where medicine's working in our favor. This is some people have enough time to... I sound like an idiot. No, it's just in that time where people have enough time to look at the fantastic. We're about to head into space age territory where we're looking into the skies. The sci-fi is a big deal. And then you got incidents like these happening. I mean, this is post-Roswell. I think that's what, 1940s, 40-odd, 45, 36 or something. Don't shout at me. I don't know all the stuff. But yeah, it's that whole sci-fi element of that time period that just, the possibilities and the fear of so many things and being so isolated. It's a perfect story for itself because it's very America at the time anyway.
Exactly. Another potential answer was that rather than owls, the creatures were actually escaped monkeys, which had escaped from a travelling circus or carnival or zoo. But I think someone proved that was impossible. There's like no reports.
Because they just contradicted them.
Yeah.
They're carnies. If they came from a carnival, they'd probably be like, oh, that's Bobo, my cousin.
Exactly.
All the carnies know of the other carnivals. They know their competition.
They've seen a monkey. So, I mean, the thing is, for me, I can't imagine...
Carnies have seen it all. They travel.
Yeah, exactly. I can't imagine being these people, these characters, in this situation, living this lifestyle, who, even if they were drunk or confused, interpreting owls or, I mean, even monkeys...
That sounds like academic people reaching...
as something supernatural, messing with them, you know, I always find it hard to believe that it really was a monkey or an owl. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that think nothing of getting drunk and merry and getting the guns out at night. I mean, I know plenty of people even in the UK, otherwise respectable farmers and country folk that do that for fun. But yeah, I mean, there's so many what the fucks in these answers and solutions to this mystery that is what makes it so interesting. The thing about owls and why that's the predominant kind of solution, I think, is also because there are a couple of other alien or monster encounters, I think both in America. I think there's like the Flatwoods monster and something else from both in the 50s and 60s that have also been solved as encounters with other species of owls. So we've got owls are the answer for at least 3 pretty famous monster / alien encounters. And I just...
Show me the proof.
Yeah. You know, whatever. No. Maybe it was owls. Maybe I don't know. But it's just one of those things. It's like, oh really? Like
it would totally be that though.
That's the solution. These people were, you know, these people misinterpreted owls as something supernatural or weird little people or aliens or goblins or whatever. Yeah. Another possibility was it just pranksters? Was someone just messing with them? Like, but can you imagine some kids or like some weird neighbors in the 50s in rural Kentucky getting dressed up all weird, like a little goblin with claws and a suit of armor or something? There's a lot of effort and huge risk, honestly.
Especially in America.
Yeah, to cause mischief at an isolated farmhouse.
Private property.
You're gonna get shot at. I couldn't believe anyone would do that as a prank. And then, you know, again about, you know, these being stupid hillbillies who got drunk. One of the kind of things that's so interesting about this is that apparently the Suttons, like the main family members in that house, were really embarrassed about being accused of being drunks, and so they shunned and turned away reporters that turned up after the incident, after they'd kind of given some initial reports and statements.
So they're not looking for attention.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the majority of the household were after that kind of attention. However, Billy Ray, he's not blood related to the family members. He's the guy that him and his wife are kind of carnival colleagues of Lucky Sutton.
And he's the one that went out to the well.
Yeah. He's the one that sparked the whole thing. He saw the spacecraft. He was one of the main... Him and Lucky were the guys, you know, shooting at these creatures. So I think it was a researcher called Isabel Davis who really investigated this story in the 70s. She said he had looked at the creatures with extravagant success. He was the only member of the group who appeared to arouse immediate doubt in everyone who talked to him. Even among the family, he had a low standing. When he first came into the house and reported a spaceship, they paid him no attention. Later, during the investigations, he basked in the limelight of publicity. He elaborated and embroidered his description of the creatures, though not his description of the spaceship. And eventually, he produced the most imaginative and least credible of the Little Men sketches. So several skeptics who labelled the story a hoax referred to him as the probable originator. His behaviour was in sharp contrast to that of the other witnesses, none of whom aroused such prompt suspicion in the investigators. So that's what Isabel Davis, this researcher in the 70s, said. You know, Billy Ray, bullshitter, attention seeker, compulsive liar. We're not here to tarnish the good reputation of carnival workers.
Yeah, yes.
But
especially considering history.
Carnies, showmen, I think it's fair to say that to be successful in that industry back then, you had to be able to talk a good talk. It's about conning people, a bit about fakery, spinning stories. Maybe Billy Ray was that kind of guy and he got a bit carried away just with his friends. Maybe they knew he was a bit of a bullshitter, a bit of a compulsive storyteller, which is why they kind of dismissed him when he first came into the house and told them he'd seen a spacecraft. So maybe, you know, was it just some people freaking out over a meteor and a couple of owls? Was there drinking with these drunk, stupid hillbillies, or just some kind of mass hysteria? Monkeys? A really risky prank? Maybe it was just actual terrestrial goblins or a species of gremlins that we haven't discovered.
You know what my theory is?
Come and say hello.
I will say this. This is always my theory. Basically, since Roswell, we got a bunch of technology, and what it is, it's actual just military dudes in the Pentagon projecting physical, like, hologram type Star Trek shit, projecting it. That's what they're doing.
Taking pranks to the next level.
Taking
with
trolls of the
taxpayers'
government.
money.
Yes.
Okay, but this is the little thing that just like always creeps me out about this was a quote from the county sheriff who I guess dealt with their statement when they all fled the battle and drove to the police station at night. He judged the witnesses to have been frightened by something beyond reason, not ordinary. And he said, these were not the sort of people who normally ran to the police. Something frightened them, something beyond their comprehension.
This is what was curious about what you said, where Billy couldn't, like, he wants all that attention, but he didn't describe the craft. Apparently, when you see something so out of the ordinary, your brain doesn't know how to process it. And I always heard this story, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but like when, you know, the ships first arrived in America, when they were, you know, making camp shit, like people had to sit down and look at the ships for like ages, days and stuff, just to figure out what it was, because it's so alien that they couldn't describe it. You know, Pocahontas touches on that in the Disney film, like where she's like white strange clouds, but that's actually supposed to be based off of an incident where a dude was like, I've got to sit here and look at this before I can figure out what the fuck it is and describe it and tell my people what it is. Yeah, I feel like maybe Billy, even if he did see the ship, you wouldn't be able to describe it. Maybe you just, how can you? Even if it, you know, if it's that foreign. I don't know what to believe. So,
that is the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter for us to chew on.
That was awesome.
I mean, UFOs, I haven't decided. I mean, you know, a lot of that, the UFO kind of trend has kind of, you know, people say, oh, it stopped happening as much since everyone got camera phones. Weird that.
Yeah.
But for real though, you know, I think someone on Reddit wrote, hillbillies smashed on moonshine is a recipe for UFO sightings, especially in the 50s and 70s when that shit was, you know, all over the newspaper. Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's just now that like UFO sightings just aren't in vogue anymore, you know. I'm sure there's plenty of sightings and stories, and I mean, we've got friends who've seen things, but
just doesn't sell papers.
You know,
so.
people just probably don't go to the media. It's just not the trend for this to be a thing, maybe.
Especially when you got fake news. Newspapers and media outlets have to be very careful nowadays, else they get completely tarnished reputations. Like,
I mean, the thing is, as well, as for me, is like people are like, oh well, you know, everyone now's got camera phones, so surely if, you know, everyone was seeing aliens and UFOs and stuff, we'd be able to take photos of them. But if you really think about it, I mean, for me anyway, unless you're one of those people with your finger like ever ready on the selfie trigger, I am not. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I can't take a good photo of my cat Sean if I encounter wild animals when I'm on a countryside walk. I mean, I rarely can get my phone out in time before they run off. Well, and then if I take a picture, I mean, my cat can be asleep on the bed and it takes me a couple of tries before I get one that isn't blurry or whatever. Then again, you know, I kind of feel like surely now we have so much surveillance nowadays and cameras kind of poised at the sky 24/7 that surely we might have captured more by now. So I mean,
unless it's so alien that we've gone too far in, like they gave us the technology, but they gave us technology that couldn't detect them. That was purposely designed so that, you know, all our little smartphones and things were recipes given to us by Roswell aliens, and that it's designed just so that we cannot capture the things even if we wanted to. And you know what happens? You look at your screen long enough and it trains your eyes to blind you. No, I don't know. I have a thing on my phone where I can just double tap here and it brings me to my photo thing because I want to be ready for an alien or ghost sighting.
I mean, we all know if you've got an iPhone,
you guys will know.
You can swipe left or right, whatever it is, and you get the camera up. I still can't get a nice photo of a deer or a rabbit when I'm in the woods. I can barely get a picture of my cat.
Well, listeners, I'm here and I'm ready to capture aliens. One day I will get my due. But the thing is, no one will believe me because I've been shouting up for years about how I want to, like, be a doctor. So, why not me?
We won't go into too much speculation today. We'll save our opinions for another more pure alien episode at some point. But this is the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter is the unsolved mystery that really captured my imagination and frightened me as a child. And it made me believe, well, you know, there must be something to this. There's something interesting here. It got my curiosity. But, you know, going back to my childhood and being freaked out by my unsolved paranormal mystery VHS with this reenactment that was so creepy of the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter on it, I mean, that deeply, deeply affected me. You know, at the time, I was like 7 or 8 or 9. We were living in this weird, bleak bungalow in the woods, like the very edge, the tree line of the forest was in our back garden. We were super isolated. It was just like 2 kids and a single mum. We were literally on a woodland track that you could barely drive regular cars up. And if I looked out of my bedroom window at night, it was pitch black. You know, this wasn't even, you wouldn't really define where we lived as a village. It was like a collation of houses in a wood. And we just about had a kind of hamlet name, I suppose, or a village name. Pitch black outside, there were no street lights. You know, if I looked out of my window at night, it was just maybe some moonlight lighting up the tops of the trees and, you know, deers rustling in the hedge. So it was very easy, I think, to imagine myself in the shoes of these people. You know, I would be pulling the curtains across the window so fast because I didn't want to see a creepy little white alien hand or face appear. Like, I was shutting and drawing those curtains like every night and morning. So yeah, so it really touched me, that story, and super affected my kind of early experience with questioning the paranormal and the supernatural.
Yeah, and what's real.
What's really cute though is that Kelly, so the little town kind of closest to where the Sutton farmhouse was, where this all happened, they hold a Little Green Men festival. I think like every year. I don't know exactly what happens there, but I guess it's probably a lot of fun for like...
Oh, we should go one day.
UFO enthusiasts and locals, like alien-themed snacks maybe, like flying saucer-shaped burgers. It's their thing.
Yeah.
They adopted this story and it became like...
That's good.
What they're known for there. So that's cute. That's always
Make that coin.
The uplifting little tidbit.
Yeah, that's nice. We should go one day. Go to the Little Green Man Festival. Oh, man.
I guess what I want to say is when you entertain the possibility for these kind of things, it captures your imagination. When I'm like a car passenger at night now,
yeah,
I'm going around with that little like sparkly weird feeling inside me that you never know, I might just see something strange too.
Exactly.
And that's a kind of cool thing to like exist with, I think. That possibility when you've been allowed to become kind of open-minded to this stuff.
Without joining a cult that believes in aliens or something. You can have both, the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
As a world-weary person.
This is the deal, we're just like, we're not like extreme believers.
No.
And we're not extreme skeptics.
I want to listen.
We've just, we're going around, I'm just carrying on my normal everyday life, trying to get my shit together, make some money, hustle. And I can also kind of go around when I'm feeling shitty and tired and bored and still have that little sparkly thing inside that maybe there is a possibility there's something undiscovered out there.
Yeah.
Do you have a little uplifting summary of this episode?
Something uplifting. Well, I mean, really, the kind of feeling I have is just when my mom exposed me to that kind of stuff, and I was exposed and I was able to read about those things that went bump in the night kind of meant something different to me. I knew what a radiator sounded like, blah, blah, blah. And I never felt any time that the house we lived in and the trailer that we lived in and the places that I lived in ever, I've never lived in a place that I thought was haunted. But I've been to places where I got a weird feeling and have left, and it turned like weird things have happened there, or like, I like to leave it open. Like, maybe it's not true. Maybe these, it's fine, But it's just that the air of mystery, is there something just lingering? It's just, it's fun for me to think about. I don't know if that's necessarily uplifting. It's just, it's something that I've always been intrigued by, and definitely I will eat up anybody's ghost stories, I know all the creepypastas, so I don't want this, but I love the idea that because I personally don't know what I believe, I'm without getting into too much detail, I just like the idea that these things could exist, and I'd rather give someone the opportunity to tell a story than to live in a world where everyone just thinks they've got it all figured out and there are no stories anymore. But I recognize it as a story without trying to like call it fake or this or that. I'm here to listen.
Yeah, well, I guess, to wrap these little stories up, we've had some personal stories, some family encounters, a famous case, and a bit more kind of some theories and solutions and possibilities. A little bit of everything today. I'm going to say thanks to my mum, my dad, my stepmom, my grandparents, my step-grandparents, and probably some of my aunties for being cool and getting me all those unsolved mysteries, ghost story, paranormal books when I was a kid.
Yeah, same. Thanks, Mom, for not making me feel even weirder than I already was because of being like opening the door to possibility rather than shutting it to absolute logic and conclusion and skepticism. Not that there's anything wrong with, I love a healthy skeptic. It's not me.
And instilling that fear for the rest of my life that I'm going to open my eyes at night and there's going to be like a glow-in-the-dark tennis racket with an alien face on it stood at the foot of my bed.
Bring you back to the stars.
We hope you enjoyed our very first episode. Maybe you feel inspired to tell us about your baby's first mystery. What are the stories that got you fascinated with the strange and extraordinary? What mysteries do you like to think about when you need to escape from reality? Maybe you saw something or experienced something that you can't explain.
Do you have small goblin-like creatures in your backyard? Maybe you are a small goblin-like creature. Send your snippets and stories that you like to share with us. You can write to us at our email address, worldwearypodcast@gmail.com.
Once again, please rate, review, and subscribe. And check out our website,